This is a video about why Rian Johnson was the perfect pick for Star Wars Episode VIII. To see why, we'll take a look at his hit 2012 sci-fi action thriller, Looper. The story follows a hired gun known as Joe, the twist being that his targets are sent back to him from the future after time travel has been invented and immediately outlawed. Known as loopers, these hitmen are generously rewarded, with an even bigger payday coming when future crime syndicates, wanting to erase all links to their organizations, send back the future loopers to be killed by their former selves. They call this closing their loop, and shit gets weird when the younger Joe, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, fails to kill the older Joe, played by Bruce Willis. Rather than running through the whole plot, I'm just going to focus on some story elements behind the principal characters, because I think there is a lot of overlap there with the Star Wars saga. Old Joe's motivation is to save his future wife from the death he witnessed when a crime syndicate's men showed up to capture him and close his loop. Like Anakin, Old Joe is mixed up possessive love with the compassionate kind, and his fear of losing his wife for good is what prompts his attempt to try and change destiny. To do that, he sets out to find a child that, like Anakin, has a few special abilities. Telekinesis, known as TK, is a mutation that manifests to various degrees in a small subset of the population, sort of like the Force.
Before going in, don't do that.
Chicks dig TK.
They do not.
This child eventually grows up to become someone they call the Rainmaker, for obvious reasons. He takes over all the crime syndicates and for a mysterious reason begins closing all the loops. Old Joe thinks that if he can find this child and kill him, he can change the future and live happily ever after with his wife. And like Anakin, he's willing to kill 2 other children that were born on the same day to be certain that the deed is done. Young Joe doesn't really care about Old Joe's problems or the Rainmaker.
Fuck you. And your wife. None of this concerns me.
This is gonna happen to you,
It happened to you. It doesn't have to happen to me.
He just wants to close his loop so his own guys stop hunting him. But after getting to meet the child that becomes the Rainmaker and his mother, he quickly learns that rather than being an evil demon seed, the child is mostly just struggling with his abilities and is a decent person that wants to stop people from getting hurt. His mother believes she can raise him to be a compassionate individual.
Like one day he'll learn to control.
Yeah, I know he will. Imagine what he's gonna do.
Like if he did good with it, though. If he grew up with me raising him. If he grew up good.
He doesn't.
In the final twist of the film, we see that the Rainmaker becomes evil because his mother is killed by Old Joe. Young Joe sees this all laid out in front of him and makes the decision to avoid that future by sacrificing himself so that the boy and his mother survive. He says that the path he sees if the mother dies is a circle of violence that will go round and round.
So I changed it.
The Star Wars parallels are on the wall. We have a child that goes bad because his mother isn't there to teach him proper emotional control, the mistaking of possessive love for the compassionate kind that gives rise to a fear of loss that leads to the dark side, and a sacrifice that makes everything turn out okay.
Yeah, and it's not to save her. It's obviously not to save her. It's for him to hold on to her, the same way that Joe's trying to hold on to his silver at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. And then obviously when he kills the kid, you realize that the wife wouldn't have wanted this. He's not doing this for the wife. He's in the exact same loop that he was in when he was a young man, and ends up being young Joe who has to see that and kind of evolve past it at the end.
This is why Rian Johnson was the perfect guy for Episode VIII. He loves sympathetic villains, and he had the task of, according to him, ripping off Kylo Ren's armor in The Last Jedi. We're going to find out the how indeed part of reconciling Kylo's patricide with this notion that he is the other half of our main protagonist, along with Rey. What Looper demonstrates is that Rian Johnson is capable of putting story above plot so that the characters tug on our heartstrings. The film could have easily just been a mind-bending time travel thriller with no real emotional substance, but it's clear that Rian still wanted to create a story worth telling that has some depth along with its unique stylistic execution. And Rian certainly brings style, openly admitting that he draws inspiration from sources like Akira, Terminator, and my all-time favorite anime, Cowboy Bebop. I hope you're as excited as I am to see what he has given us with Star Wars Episode VIII. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about Looper and Rian Johnson. And if you like what I'm doing here, please subscribe, and consider donating $1 per video via my Patreon account linked below. See you for the next video.